Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. Now that my two obligatory informative videos are done for the day, it's time to talk about current events in the online fitness community. And the other day I did a video about the whole fake natty thing and Jeff Nippard, and I roasted him pretty hard. And he actually gave a very mature, very respectable response, which I will flip in here. You know, and that's the interesting thing that's worth noting there. That's worth noting. The guy, I'm going to give him props. An actual respect for the response that he gave. So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing. We're going to scale up my crafting a little bit and let's talk about this. You know, people are always like, Jason, I don't understand. What's this weaponsmithing? What's this machine? Well, today, guys, I am reloading 45 ACP in Winchester brass with 7.5 grains of accurate number 5 and 230 grain Montana Gold FMJs. So for those who don't know what I'm doing now, you know exactly what I'm doing. I just seated one and I just crimped it. So that should remove any ambiguity as to what I'm doing. But what I thought was interesting when you contrast Jeff's response to some of the other people. I mean, look at other people who I have been critical of, who are, you know, fairly big fitness YouTubers. And the childish responses they had, they weren't willing to defend themselves at all. They came in my comments. And you take people like Scott Herman, who, you know, I've actually given a fair amount of credit to Scott Herman. I've busted his chops a little bit, but I've given more positive stuff of things he said than negative. He got upset. He's like, why are you all over me? He got all defensive instead of just admitting that 3-inch rack pulls are stupid. They're stupid, and if you do them, you're probably a little bit stupid too. I'm just calling it like it is. You know, unless you've been tricked into some stuff and then you turn 19 and 20 and you get a little more life experience and you realize it's just a silly ass scam that's being pulled on you, that it's an absurd exercise that no real expert would ever support the use of for hypertrophy, all right, or strength, for either one. But, you know, if you're going to go and promote something that silly, expect to be called out. You should be expected to be called out by physiologists, not just by me. You should be expected to be called out by people with PhDs calling you a dumbass if you do that. I mean, just accept it. We all do some stupid stuff. We all put out a little bit of bad information. I don't care who you are. And when you do, and you put out information that's universally agreed by most experts to be stupid, expect to get your chops busted a little bit. Don't be so defensive about it. It's stupid. The same thing, you know, when you had Kinobody, he came in and got all insulted my physique, talked about my girlish hips and everything when I was talking about his lack of strength for someone who's been training as long as he has. When he went to deadlift, you know, and he talks about being athletic, the guy can't squat over 300 pounds, barely deadlifts 400, while talking about being athletic. It's like, I'm sorry, bro, you don't even have a strength base on anything but your chest and your lats. Let's be realistic here. Upper body fluff and pumper. And the scary part is, you know, he stole all his stuff from Martin Burkham, and Martin deadlifts well over 600 pounds for reps. You know, Martin believes in training the big lifts. You know, he absolutely does. And he was one of his proteges and clients, and then he stole all Martin's stuff and still continued to, you know, not train lower body and promote that. So yeah, I'm going to bust his chops for that. You know, but he came in and he made it all ad hominem, and he couldn't defend any of his nonsense. Now, some people are going to go, Jason, but don't you do that? I've seen, no, you guys haven't seen me. You haven't seen me, and I know there are people out there who are convinced, and there's actually someone linked one to me a while back of a guy convinced that even though I say I don't post in people's comments, he's sure it was really me, beyond all doubt. And it's like, I had never heard of this guy before. It actually wasn't me. I'm going to be frank with you guys. I have not posted under my account, under a catfish, anything else in at least 4 years in anyone else's video comments, anywhere in any genre of YouTube. I don't post in other people's comments. All right, I'm well known for saying that, and anyone thinks that it was me, it wasn't. If I'm going to discuss you, I'm going to make a video about you and make some money off of it, right? If I'm going to dispute a video a person makes about me, I'm going to make money off of it. I'm not going to go comment in their comment section and not get paid for it, right? If they're going to badmouth me, I'm going to get paid for my response. I don't know what's so hard for people to understand about that. I'd rather make a video about it than I would be to go yell or scream at them or type silly shit in their comments, right? I'm not getting money for that. Hell, I'm not even educating anybody doing that. So no, those are called fake accounts, guys. But on to Jeff. I will give props. That was a very, very mature response. I may not agree with everything that he does, but he actually admitted he doesn't disagree with most of my points. He said, no, he doesn't really support the branched chain amino acids. He knows that his sponsor sells them. Doesn't mean that he approves of it. Okay, fair enough. But again, that is a little bit of cognitive dissonance. But here's what we need to all remember. Even rational, logical people still suffer from cognitive dissonance. Some of the most brilliant men in the world have even noted, hey, I still have some cognitive dissonance. Guess what? Being logical and intelligent doesn't make you immune. We're human beings, right? We're all human beings. So, okay, I'll say that. Then he said, I know how you feel about the pre-workouts. I'm aware of the evidence on it. I personally have always used them, and I feel they benefit me. That's my personal anecdote, even though the data doesn't really support it. Okay, so there's an admission of that. That's fair enough. And again, I would say Jeff is one of those guys who got caught into the pre-workout trap. I'll accept that, because if he uses it himself and he's always promoted it and feels there's a benefit, when we know based on the data, I don't think there is, and I think there's good reasons to think that in some cases pre-workouts are actually counterproductive. But he could be one of those guys who fell into that trap of it. He's been tricked and he hasn't been able to get himself out of it. Okay, fair enough. But at least he legitimately endorses the product, legitimately uses it, feels he personally gets something out of it. I can't disprove that. Now, we could say, oh, that's just a lie to sell it. We could say that, but we can't prove that. And it actually is reasonable for a person to have that stance. It's not an unbelievable defense, right? It's not unbelievable. That's not something you could say, oh, he's flat out lying. He just wants to say, I don't know about it. I don't know if that's actually the case. I would be willing to give him the benefit of the doubt on that as a reasonable person, right? Because even if someone has been caught even doing something you think is unreasonable or irrational or lying, it doesn't mean that they can't have a reasonable defense for other things. You can't look at stuff from that perspective, right? If it's actually a reasonable explanation for why a person is doing something and it actually makes sense and a reasonable person could come to the conclusions that they have and do it for that reason, you can't necessarily call that a lie, guys. You got to be reasonable. You have to give people at least some benefit of the doubt. You have to. Within reason. So, yeah, I mean, I'm inclined to believe that really is the case, that he really does believe in it based on that. And eventually he'll probably come around and realize they're ridiculous, and, that'll be the end of it. What I do appreciate, though, is the fact that he acknowledged that, yeah, even though he's trying to claim, well, I don't think there's that many fake natties, whereas I think there is. I think over half of this industry is a fake natty. I think at least 50%. Minimum 50% of the people out there pimping supplements, pimping YouTube stuff, pimping programs who claim natural, I think at least half of them are fake natties. I think at least half. Now, that doesn't mean every single one of them, because that's like saying at least half of people in this world are women. That doesn't mean everyone's a woman. There are probably some men in that mix. Be reasonable here, guys. But I think it's at least half, if not more. Whereas he thinks it's very few. We can agree to disagree. But what he did say is that even he has a problem with a lot of these guys who clearly are using anabolics, then claiming the supplements gave them the results. He admitted that's an ethical problem. All right, now that is some common ground. And what I think is interesting, and this is why I'm going to give some respect to the guy. And I know a lot of you guys are like, I can't stand Jeff. I don't like him with his munchkin voice and all this other stuff, right? I'm going to give respect because the guy was willing to find that common ground where we do agree. And he agreed upon my biggest point, my biggest reason and my ethical reason for pushing this whole finding the fake natties and discussing it is because of that very phenomenon. It is a problem. He even agrees it's an ethical problem. And at a certain point, I think all of us who agree it's an ethical problem, we are going to have to set aside some differences, and that problem is going to have to be tackled by big voices in the fitness world. Because if we don't, it's a scam, and it's a massive scam. That's a scam that makes billions of dollars a year. And I'm all for capitalism, guys. I am for capitalism. I'm for a free market. But that free market needs to have buyer and reviewer ethics being looked at. You know, that's how a free market is supposed to work, where everyone else is reviewing stuff saying, hey, wait a minute, this is some bad advertising practice, this is some ethical behavior. People need to be aware of this and make consumer choices based upon that, right? That's how a free market is supposed to work. That's how it's supposed to work. So some people are like, oh, you're attacking business. No, I'm attacking unethical business practices. I'm not attacking people's right to start a business and make money. Right? I'm not attacking people's right to sell products and services in a free market. All right? I am not by any means. I am not even close to being anti-capitalist. What I'm saying is that when bad business practices are being practiced and people are being scammed, that we, those of us who know better, we need to voice our opinions on those specific things, and we need to say, hey, this is a problem, this is bad business ethics. All the consumers and customers need to be aware of this so that they can make a more educated choice of how to utilize their buying power to encourage better ethical behavior inside of a market. All right, it's up to the consumer to regulate that behavior with what they choose to spend their money on. That's your job in a free market. So, all in all, I'll give props for that. And then on top of it, he made a joke even about his height. Well, we may not see eye to eye on this, pardon the pun. It's like, I'm going to give props for that. That's a dude who is totally not insecure about his height. He was willing to make a joke about it. When half of these YouTubers out here wearing lift shoes, lying about their height, to the point to where there are guys who claim to be 5'10" and 6 foot tall, who I was taller than when I've met them. I will leave that alone, and I'm not 6 foot. I'm under 6 foot. So, you know, there's just something to be said for that. There are guys out here whose publicly published stats are 3 or 4 inches taller than what they really are, right? They really are. And there's a lot of that going on. And it's funny, even I get accused of it. The reality is I know what my height is. I've been measured by a doctor plenty of times. I've never fronted about it. I've never lied on here about my height. And I find the whole thing comical. But he knows that he's below average height, and he made a joke about it. All right, man, that's showing some confidence. That's confidence. I will give respect for that too. Even though we're going to agree to disagree on certain points, and that's fine. That was a totally mature and respectable response to my roasting. And I have to respect that. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.